Good evening, everyone. I now call this continued meeting of May 1st to order. And although it's a continued meeting, I have Pastor Warren here, and I'm going to ask him to open us with prayer. Thank you, Pastor.
Just to confirm, you want to...
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Would you bow with me? Heavenly Father, as we come tonight, God, we thank you for the opportunity once again to come together and discuss the business of Blackstone. We pray, Heavenly Father, that your will be invoked in all the decisions that are made tonight. We pray, Heavenly Father, for this council, Lord God, that you continue to lead them, guide them, and direct them in a way in which you would have them to go. Bless their households. Bless this town of Blackstone. We give you praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Couple of housekeeping items I want to get behind us. The first thing is Mr. Allman is away on business, and so we have 6 council members present. In the case of a tie, which I hope we don't have, I will have to cast the deciding vote. Also, this is a continued meeting. It's not like the regular meeting we had a couple weeks ago where we have visitors, and so there's no visitor time scheduled tonight. However, if we have a lot of people here for several different things, I want what's best for Blackstone, and if that is, council would like to hear testimony from someone, then of course we'll do so. Members of council, do you have anything you'd like to add to the agenda? Mr. Page, did you want to add subdivision?
No, I don't think I can. Let's do it next meeting.
Absolutely. All right, hearing no additions, we'll jump right in and we'll hear from Robertson, Farmer, and Cox about our audit. Good to see you again, and I appreciate you making the time to come back.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to help answer any questions that I can. So when I came, I dropped off the hard copies of what is the final report. And there's a final PDF out there as well. And what I've done is I've flagged a few pages. They're really the only changes of substantial note since when I was here previously. There are some other changes of the typographical, clerical nature from the draft that I presented before, but I've got just a few things that are numbers changes, things like that. And then I'll try to answer any questions that you have. So on page 7 of the report is the balance sheet of your governmental funds, and last time, it's really Exhibit 3 and 5 will show you this fund balance number. I think last time I may have jumped on Exhibit 5, but Exhibit 3 has the numbers there as well for your fund balances, and in total, it is still a negative amount. We did manage to get the general fund to reduce that deficit. It's not as big as it was. We were able to determine that we could apply some of the ARPA funding that you all had to your fund balance for FY23 rather than having it sit at the unearned revenue. And so that did help. But you still have, a negative fund balance in your general fund to the tune of about negative $800,000. Capital projects, negative $380, but then you have positive $590 or so in your special revenue. So for your governmental funds, you still have a deficit of about $600,000. Now your utility funds are, as I went over last time, you have very large balances there, and so maybe there is consideration to be given to transfers between the utility fund and the governmental funds to get them, back into a positive green position. Page 74 is the next page. When I stood here last time, it was pointed out that we didn't have the stat tables in that draft report. They are in the final document. And what these stat tables do is really, for the most part, give you historical data for the past 10 years. Everything before this in the report kind of just focuses on the current year. Well, this gives you a place where you can sort of compare things from what the past 10 years have been, from revenues, expenses, and so forth within these different tables that we have. And then lastly, on page 91, for the federal compliance work, we had noted previously that only the Federal Transit Cluster was a major program for federal compliance testing, but we did also have a USDA money that had to be federal compliant as well, which is because of the USDA loan that you all had, the large USDA loan. That is considered federal, so we did have to identify that. that it was under our federal compliance testing as well. So those are the main changes from when I was here previously. Glad to answer any questions that may be out there related to the audit or the financials.
Members of council, you have any questions about the audit as it is presented?
I do,
Mr. Cormish, you have the floor.
and if sounds silly for asking this, forgive me, but I thought it's a good time to ask it here. Electrical fund.
What page?
Page 6. So we're looking at electrical fund,
I think, well,
expenses, 5,151,805, and
it's Exhibit 8, I think, on, page 12. If you're looking at a hard copy at the bottom, I think it's page 12 and Exhibit 8. That's where you'll see the electric fund, as well as water and sewer. But if I'm wrong, let me know.
exhibit what?
8.
Okay.
Page 12.
Yeah, I'm on page 12 now, yes, sir. I guess my question is, like I said, I'm trying to understand this. We pay Dominion for the electricity. Somebody in here, Philip, or any of the notice, you can chime in. If I'm understanding the process, which I'm starting to wonder if it makes any sense, we pay Dominion one check from the town for the 54 utility bills that the town receives from itself. Is that right? No?
One check for everything, right?
We don't pay directly to FEMA, we buy through a cooperative buying group of municipal electric
But it comes,
providers,
okay.
like Harrisonburg, Manassas, Culpeper, Blackstone, Franklin, Wakefield.
okay,
and
yeah, but we pay,
Elkton.
so we pay for it with who we get it from. And I guess what I'm trying to ask is, are we paying for it? Why do we bill ourselves for power we already pay for?
Because we may pay for it, so we can pay for it by department or in the correct department. So we will issue a bill for, say it's the water plant,
Yeah,
or one of our, the water intake, that kind of thing. And so that we can code it directly to the correct department.
I guess I'm still wondering, I mean, we already pay for it. I mean, it's a lump number that we as a town use with all the different utility locations,
We actually produce a bill. for
and
it
we
every year.
pay it, we're paying ourselves for it.
I believe the check is actually prepared, is it not?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm trying to understand, we write ourselves a check out of a checking account that the money's gonna come back into.
It is correct.
Well, a lot of them do not come back to us, because we have a lot of Southside Electric bills as well that we pay, like the wastewater treatment plant, the water treatment plant, that's all Southside Electric, so we,
Actually,
No.
water treatment and wastewater treatment, so everybody
They
knows, is actually including our FEMA bill. Larry built the line,
Yeah,
God, years ago down there, and it's actually, if you look at our FEMA bill, there's 2 delivery points. One of them is on West Entrance Road, and the treatment plant is the second delivery point. But Southside Electric does have a big meter, big consumer at the reservoir intake, and that's usually $5,500 a month, $6,000 a
We
month.
pay like 7 or 8 grand
There you
a month
go.
to Southside Electric.
We pay Southside Electric a big bill out there.
I guess what I'm asking is, that's money that we're paying out, that we're getting back, I don't understand that.
I think it's more an accounting measure. You're right.
I mean,
It's
I
lots of
understand
money.
tracking it, and I understand,
Money in,
usage
money
in case
out.
there's an issue somewhere, or misuse somewhere, but we talking millions for over a year's period, right? I mean,
It's about 30 grand a month.
I
is
don't
it?
think it's millions,
30
yeah.
to 30.
Okay, I saw 2,
Yeah, I'd
okay,
say the checks between 26,000 and 30 grand a month.
so electricity
For all the
revenues, 4817342,
That's the total
That's the
total collections from
total collection from the
everybody in
town.
this room and everybody.
Okay. What we're talking about.
And I don't think he segregates in his audit, and you can correct me, but if you look at the budget, there's about a half a dozen revenue lines in the electric department for late fees and penalties and interest and all kinds of different stuff, and that may be included in that 4.8, so that may be actually not
I'm
true
just-
collections, they may also have.
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around paying ourselves. I mean, everybody knows I work for the power company. When I worked in a power station, we didn't bill ourselves for our power. We had a station service transformer, and it powered us. I mean, for example, say Eric cuts his own grass, does he pay himself for cutting his grass? You know what I'm saying? It's like,
I think it's an accounting purpose, and for example, we use the water and wastewater facilities.
yeah,
they need to pay the electric department for their consumption. Because we have separate funds, as you see in the audit, you got a general fund, fire department, for example,
Yeah,
or
I just
rescue
wanna ask.
squad, or town hall.
Street lights and
And,
all kinds of
and
stuff.
streetlights, there's actually a
Yeah.
transfer in your budget, I say it's a transfer, but there's actually an expense where the street department pays the electric department in our budget, $55,000, I think, a year for NT. Mike, because they're not metered, so there's actually a payment from the street, revenue from the street.
I'll look
department.
deeper to get a better understanding. I was just
Mhm.
wondering if it's required that we bill ourselves for something that we're paying ourselves for.
That's a you question.
I don't believe it's required. I think it's probably just something you all have always budgeted and done, and maybe there were certain reasons that you needed to fund certain things within the electric fund, and that, I don't. But to the best of my knowledge, I don't believe that there is a requirement that you would bill your general fund.
I mean, water and sewer, what you just said, we already pay for the water and the sewage to be handled. It's like, but we're paying ourselves a water and sewage.
Should
bills
there be a
also.
meter at the police department if you're-
I don't wanna drag it out, but I
Well,
was just trying to.
I don't
understand.
wanna, I don't wanna get in front of our current finance chairman, but I have chaired the finance committee. And my opinion is that this is a clean way of doing it. These funds need to be segregated, the enterprise funds, which is water, funds that bring revenue in to pay for it, they need to be segregated from the general fund. And, I just think it's a cleaner way of doing it. It could be a little bit more paperwork, but that way we really know what the cost of creating water is. Because the electricity, you heard the comment about, what y'all say, $5,500, $6,000 a month just to get the water from the reservoir up to the plant.
And actually, a little more, she was saying it's about $7,000.
$7,000. So my point is we've got to calculate all that cost. And then by doing this, I feel, and I think you do too, Mr. Nash, is that correct? That this keeps it cleaner, and then we have an accurate cost analysis on the services that we're providing, so. But I think it's a great question, I understand what you're saying. And I would say, I understand what you're saying, because like we have a money market account, and it's one piggy bank, but he may have money set aside for 30 different projects. But we don't have 30 different money market accounts or checking accounts, so I understand what you're saying. I just think in my experience as a council member that this was the way it was done, and I think it's clean, and it will cause less confusion for staff and certainly less confusion for council. Mr. Nash, did you have anything you want to ring in?
Is it an expense in the budget to pay ourselves?
It's included in the cost, like a power cost, and it's been done, and I can't say I can segregate it as a separate line, but there's an electric cost to the water and sewer department. And so you can go back in there and it'll be lumped in with
Utility,
all the utility, line item, like there's a communications line for telephone or whatever, or internet service. It's lumped in there together, so it's not segregated as that portion that the town's paying itself, it's just put it into that.
Mr. Page?
Yeah, so if I'm reading this right, we took in $4.8 million, same
still-
page, 12.
Okay.
$4.8 million in customer receipts for electricity. We purchased $2.4 million from Dominion Energy for that power. It shows that we have an operating income loss under power, water, and sewer of $291,380, but there is $1 million in depreciation, which is not an actual expense. Generally, it's not a cash expense, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was a cash expense historically. Well, it wasn't expense. It was a cash payment historically that for various equipment, machinery, plant, what have you, that has a useful life greater than a year. So rather than expensing it in that year that you bought it, you're expensing it over these future years. And so, yeah, that's why you have that depreciation amount there. It's for various assets that are
Right.
being depreciated.
Had a budget for any depreciation. Mr. Moncure here to the right of me was adamant that we must, and so that's when this has started.
Now the depreciation, we don't pay taxes. So normally somebody would depreciate something's value for a tax credit or benefit. How does it benefit us besides turn our bottom line upside down?
It's really just an accounting principle. You have to for things that are over a fixed asset threshold and that have a useful life greater than a year. For accounting principles, you have to depreciate it over its useful life. It's just It's not something that benefits the town or any other locality. It's really just something that it's an accounting principle that you have to do.
But with all actuality, without that expense, which I understand for accounting principles we have to have in here, we actually have a net operating cost of about $1 million, or 800,000, I would think, somewhere around there.
Right.
Pretty good.
Is that right? I just want to make sure I'm correct.
So you're talking strictly talking electric still, or are you talking?
Still talking just on the electric, water, and sewer there on page 12, exhibit 8. Operating income loss, 291,380.
Right. Yeah. So if you added back that depreciation, then you
So cash-wise,
yeah, cash wise, you could kind of
So
project that to be actually about an $800,000 positive. But
Right,
And then, so what's left, that depreciation, which technically stays in the general fund.
Right.
Or in the electric, it's all in the same account, will pay for replacing the lines, replace, bucket trucks and all that stuff.
but in the past, it's kind of propped up our general fund, if my understanding. I think last year was 600,000 to the general
There's
fund.
not depreciation, there's depreciation on rolling stock and things in the general fund, but really what we've been budgeting is water, sewer, electric. We really haven't touched, electric is manageable because it's under $200,000, so we can, if you look at your water and sewer depreciation, over here.
Yeah, no, it's huge, it's huge, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's really not practical. Can you imagine what New York's depreciation is on their water and sewer system? The billions of dollars. We try, when possible in the budget, or if we have cash during the course of the year, we will set money aside. In fact, I put $120,000 aside, because there was money in the budget, if I'm not mistaken, for electric depreciation, and we just put the cash aside, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, because we've got ourselves back in the black in our monthly accounting, and, so there's $120,000 cash in our money market account for electric depreciation. We don't hit the 183, and when we started, when Mr. Moncure was here, I think that number was like $114,000, and water and sewer was in the $600,000 range. But we do have $120,000 for this current fiscal year that we've set aside, and that's what we could afford to do on the depreciation. And basically, if Dan needs to buy poles, if Dan needs to buy wire, and Dan really does want to do some reconductoring.
It saves us from issues like we're getting ready to have with the raw water line. If we had depreciated that over the time, we wouldn't have this $15 million, $8 million project, whatever it's gonna be.
You've got an 82-year-old water line, and in today's world, about 50 years is what you depreciate things over. And for utilities, and it's an 82-year-old line.
And because we didn't depreciate rates, if we don't get that grant,
But we didn't own it until about 2007-ish. We took possession of that line in the mid-2000s. Mike, you can maybe give me a better number about that.
I just wanted to ask about that for the liquid health, of the liquid assets of the electric department, that's all.
Any other questions, members of council? You need a motion to adopt.
Wait, I already-
Members of council, I need a motion to adopt the audit as presented.
move to approve the audit, ending for fiscal year June 30, 2023. Ms. Robinson, Farmer Cox.
Mr. Nash has moved. May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Williams is second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the motion is made by Mr. Nash and seconded by Ms. Williams to accept and approve this town audit from Robinson, Farmer, and Cox. I ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Nguyen.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Excuse me.
Next, thank you so much
thank you all.
again.
Have a nice evening.
I appreciate you coming back.
Thank you.
And maybe we'll try to get it a little quicker next year. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. All right. All right. Next item is the Blackstone Chamber fireworks. Mr. Manager, will you go to the podium? You want to handle this? That's all I can ask for. Members of council, before the manager gets started, I see that Mr. Harf has joined us. How are you doing, Julian? You there? Okay.
I am the technical difficulty.
I don't know about all that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, our town attorney is with us through video and heart and soul, so carry on, Mr. Manager.
Well, and as you may see, Michael Alder, the deputy post commander, did I get that right? The deputy post commander from Fort Barfoot is with us today in regards to the fireworks that has been discussed, anticipated. Mr. Hanratty is here as well. They can probably tell you more as far as the progress of the project. Where the town comes in for the most part is, and something I've had to explain a little bit is, the town properties have been built on, many of the town properties, so the parking issue could be a little bit more difficult. But when it boils down to it, what's before you tonight is a request for funding of $9,000 for fireworks that are intended to be or planned to be held at the airfield at Fort Pickett. And I haven't heard a negative from the post, so I think the question before you tonight is not whether it can happen, but whether the town is intending to provide funding for it.
Members of council, does anyone have any comments? Or is there a motion?
Some of the questions that were asked, have we gotten any responses from the
No, I have not. Have you mailed me a response to the questions?
I got a response on Tuesday. I do have 2 copies of my
Okay.
business plan,
Okay.
but I did mail you a response on Tuesday.
Well, I didn't see it, and I looked twice, so
I
I
think
don't,
my only concern is, if we're gonna give $9 grand, I want it to be, make sure it's legit, and it's ready to go. And it's good to see Mr. Alder here.
You want to?
They're on board with it.
Yeah, I did formulate it. It's a 3-page business plan that addressed all 21 of your concerns, Mayor. Yeah, I apologize that it's
well, it could be my fault. I've been delightfully busy at my regular job.
yeah, that's a
You
good
know.
thing.
It's something I'm not quite used to. It's been a rough 6 months, so I have been busy.
But I did.
Where will parking be? I'm sure it's in here, but
So the parking, we still need to facilitate exactly where that's going to be. I need to get boots on the ground on the base. But that's the only piece. You know, we were trying to decide where we could have it so that the egress and the ingress is the most effective in case there's a, God forbid, an emergency.
The town is fronting possibly, because we haven't voted on it yet, this $9,000 for the project. Will there be additional costs, like you're saying, you're not sure where the parking's gonna be? Is there gonna be additional funds for that?
There is going to be additional cost, but not to the town. Not to the town. It's $9,000 to the town. That's only going to be spent for insurance and the actual fireworks. We're gonna take the rest of the brunt on ourselves and fundraise the additional $5,000.
That will cover parking and stuff?
That will cover parking. It'll cover porta potties. It'll cover refreshments. It'll cover everything that's inclusive in the fireworks show besides the actual fireworks and the insurance. That's all we're asking for from the council.
Okay, so there won't be any admissions fees or anything?
Nope, free for everybody. We're not trying to make money off this. We're trying to show our support for the community. Yeah, it's not about making money to us. In fact, like I said, we're gonna have to raise about 35% of that.
I've checked my email, so maybe afterwards sometime I'll come see you. We gotta get this straight, because I apologize. I haven't seen one. Don't have one in my email box, so.
Jake's not here, but I
pass
know
it
one
down.
concern he had was the logistical side of our aircraft not gonna be allowed at that time, or, which, I mean, it's not too long a period of time, so I don't see that being an issue.
Yeah, our plan is to reach out to the FAA and just ask them to ground the aircraft at that point for the period of fireworks.
Wasn't that Jake's major concern, and he was
Yeah,
questioning, and we still don't have an answer on that?
you said it's on the 3rd of July?
It's on the 3rd of July. I'm sorry, as far as an answer for that, we need to get the funding in order to continue with this fireworks, and as soon as that happens, we will reach out to the FAA and ask them to ground the planes.
It's a fairly simple process, by the way.
It is a fairly simple process.
And if all stuff goes, if everything goes south, I'm sure the chamber's not gonna go, haha, we're keeping you $9,000 and we're not doing fireworks.
No, it's in the business plan that I'll return that within 5 business days.
Yeah.
I have a question because it's been asked before, when other committees get in front of us. Do the Chamber of Commerce, do y'all have a budget or something like that you're working with? Or you just expecting the 9,000 for us and no budget?
No, our budget is 14,000. The 9,000 portion of that budget is just for, like I said, the insurance and the actual fireworks. We're asking the council to approve that money, and then we're taking the rest of the budget on ourselves to fundraise for.
see that the fireworks are 7,000 in the paperwork.
So it's 7,000 plus 4,000 for insurance. So 9 of that is going to go directly from the council in our hopes, and the rest we will fundraise.
I passed my copies down. Are you in charge of mission?
We are not charging admission. It's free for all.
Most of the bill.
Shoot, I don't even remember my own questions. Been so busy. Oh, me. Council,
Well, I
what's
tried to
your-
address them all for you.
Well,
Mayor.
I appreciate that. Again, I apologize on my end for not getting this to council, but, I didn't see it. But anyway, council, what's your pleasure?
I move that we approve the request as followed by the business plan, and I would like for us that to be sent to all of us, just because I glanced at it, it's not enough.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can leave here and send it to you from the office right now.
But it's a plan, and it looks solid, and I can tell you, with the base being here, it's helpful knowing that everybody's in it together, partner. So,
Appreciate that.
Mr. Nash has moved to approve the $9,000 request. Is there a second? Hearing none, that motion fails. Is there anyone else that would like to offer a motion or any discussion?
I think it's an awful high bill for us to pay, being that we're already pinching pennies.
Well, Ms. Wynn, with all due respect, we're at the point where if we're gonna continue discussion, I need a motion on the floor. So if there is no motion, I guess we'll move on.
Amen.
You know, we get requests from different entities, 501c3s each year, and it's good to support good organizations, there's no doubt about it. But I think sometime, sooner or later, we need to, I guess, establish a baseline. This is how much we will help, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's Juneteenth, whether it's this, whether it's, you know, any kind of activity that can be supported.
Well, don't make me look bad, Mr. Gormers. I just cut the lovely Miss Wynn off for no motion, sir. Would you like to make a motion?
With what, say we support Juneteenth with 5, if we're consistent and we consistently use that approach, we won't have to go through this process going forward. It'll just be expected, I would think, that we have fireworks, you know. I make a motion that we establish a grounds of $5,000 for events that request funding, such as this, with 501c3 events. And going forward, that we stand with that.
I second that motion.
Mr. Gormers has moved, and Mr. Miller has seconded that the council in this incident and in the future will donate up to $5,000. Is that correct? Okay, and $5,000 for this event. Is that what you're saying?
Point
Yes,
of
sir.
clarification.
Hold this minute.
Got the motion second, yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Page.
Point of clarification.
Yeah, I was going to clear.
Is this a policy motion or an approval for 5,000? One I could vote on, one I can't. So I need to,
This is, the
clarified.
first one is a policy motion.
it's a policy motion.
I would
That to
rather, I
include
would, if you
funding
don't
it?
mind, council, I think it would be wise to take on a policy after we have the appropriate committee write a policy and get it to you with plenty of time for you to review and then come back. But that doesn't mean that you can't donate any amount of money to the request tonight. So,
We had to
is
start-
your policy
I hate to
includes,
be the, you know, that guy, but I mean, we had to start somewhere, and it's painful, and I love fireworks, believe me that. But it's like, this budget thing is, Lord have mercy. You know, you see what we just heard and endured with the financial report, you know, we got a budget meetings coming up and all that, and I'm not whining about it, it's part of the process too.
so your motion does not include policy, your motion is
Yeah,
five?
I wanna work toward a policy of
Okay.
establishing up to 5.
But
no more.
work to, I'm talking about, you don't want to establish, do you want to establish a policy now?
No, we
Your
should-
motion
I
is
don't
to
think we
donate
should.
5,000.
Motion is for 5 now, and then we'll work on the policy going forward.
Okay, Mr. Miller, are you
Refer it to
fine with
committee.
with the second?
I second, I'm fine.
The motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
This is to fund it for
The
5,000.
5,000 tonight.
and de facto, I mean, obviously, we have 15,000 in the budget, council discretionary fund. So, I mean, that's that's our top tier to begin with,
Right.
it's supposed to be.
Okay, well, if there's no other discussion, I'll ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Nguyen.
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion carries 4-1, is that correct?
401.
401.
Did you say nay?
411. 411,
Oh, you
right?
wanna know?
That motion carries 411. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the Spring Hill Baptist Church proposal. Mr. Manager?
Can you hear me, Julian? Uh-oh, can't hear him.
He's on mute.
Jennifer, you,
I'll be honest, so I can hear the mayor very well. The other members of council are having a little bit of trouble.
Which we're gonna soon fix, right?
she met with the contractor today.
Okay.
Maybe you can hear Philip when he
You
talks.
probably can hear the podium better than me. Try it, Philip.
When Philip talks into the microphone, I can hear him great.
Okay, we'll try to make sure you can hear everybody. So-
We talked earlier in the week, Julian, and you probably can hear me now, can you not?
All right, so I am having trouble. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Say that one more time, Philip.
You and I spoke earlier in the week in regards to Spring Hill and the RFP. Can you, which has not been issued yet, can you assist us a little bit with any issues that need to be resolved by you or I together or the council prior to RFP being issued?
Are there any, if I understand the question, I think you asked me, are there any issues that need to be resolved before we issue the RFP?
Correct.
Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay, the only thing that needs to be done, is that we would have to have a draft ordinance, which I'm working on, and we need to send out with the RFP, that we essentially fill in, the ordinance essentially says what we intend to do, and then the winning bidder, we will leave that spot blank, and we will fill in the ordinance with the whoever ends up winning the bid, we will fill in the ordinance with that entity, and everything else in the ordinance stays the same. But the ordinance needs to go out with the RFP.
Does the ordinance need to be adopted prior to the RFP being issued?
Yes, a draft of the ordinance would need to be adopted prior to the RFP being sent out, because we can't change it substantially once the bids come back. So that is one thing that will have to be done. So my goal is to get you all an ordinance to look at, and then we would have to obviously advertise, and then you look at it, vote on it, and then we could issue the RFP after that's done.
So we'll shoot for the May 20th meeting to have that presented to council, the draft ordinance.
Is that doable, Mr. Harf?
Speak
Is
into
that
the
doable?
computer.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Phil.
Talking to the computer.
That is doable.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna try May 20th meeting.
That's good.
Hot dog.
I can keep doing now. But
I gotta put my face on.
there is one thing that I'd like to talk to you all about, but it
Can you
should
get
be
this
done in
volume
closed
up?
session.
That it. Okay.
You all hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can
go
hear
ahead.
you.
There is one thing I'd like to talk to you all about, in terms of options for this process. But frankly, it's legal advice, and in my opinion, should be done in closed session.
I can certainly add a closed session.
It'll take 5 minutes. I think
Okay.
we should probably do that.
Okay, well, that's fine. Is there anything else that you need us for right this moment?
No.
Okay.
Can we do the closed session now? That way we can probably let them go and save some money.
Where you gonna put all my fine citizens at?
He says 5 minutes.
I don't think we've got that. I mean, it's not. The rest of it's pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm not feeling that. We're gonna add a okay, so let's make sure the pastor, before you leave, let's make sure Philip and Julian here can make sure you understand what's going on, okay? Do you have questions about what we're doing?
I understand what you're doing, and I guess my only concern is we've been here multiple times, and I think that we possibly need to consider just rejecting what we proposed before and starting the process over. I mean, it's obvious that the majority of the council is not for it, so rather than waste your time and our time, just go ahead and reject it.
I don't know, I haven't spoke to council about it, and if they wanna weigh in, they certainly can. So you're saying, I'm not putting words in your mouth, sir, wanna make sure I understand. And maybe give some clarity to council. If you think there's not support for it, we just want to hear it right now, is that what you're saying?
That's what I want to hear from you.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Members of council, would you anyone like to address the pastor and give them your thoughts on where we're going from here? It's a little unorthodox, but I want to do whatever I can to help make a decision here, okay?
I don't think that we should do this right now. I think we as council should talk about this. We can't give these people an answer right now. I mean, you asking us to come off the top of our head. That's not gonna work.
Okay.
We as council need to get together, iron this out, and get it straight.
So one member council would like to do it legally and properly and get back? Is that consensus, or where are we staying here, folks?
Yeah, and honestly, I don't believe you should quit.
I don't think
give
you
up
should
on
either.
trying.
No.
Because the first time you came in February, you didn't have, I don't think you had a written proposal. You gave a great, you did, yeah, okay, well, it was a great presentation. And then the RFP request went out, and I don't think that applied during the RFP. So then when you came back with what you had last time you came, you know, it was different. And it was, so, I mean, at this point, the request for proposal
It's going out.
it hadn't been, put out yet.
Yeah.
So when it is put out, Philip, you okay, Phil?
Philip, what's going on?
What's happening?
Then,
What's going on down here?
when it does come out, then what you had last time, I think it was a fair proposal. And in all fairness, after legal has input, it's not that we don't want
Yeah,
what you
we
want.
weren't talking about giving up. We just didn't want to waste your time. You know, if you all are not interested, you know, just say it. We're going to continue to do what we're going to do, but we just don't want to waste your time.
There are members of us that are very interested, have been from the beginning. I think the situation came up after our FP went out, that someone else decided to put in their bid. And that was an unexpected situation for everyone, including you. So we had to deal with that. And now it's a whole nother situation. So my encouragement is don't let go of the ball yet. Okay, don't let go of the ball yet.
I gotta be honest with you, Pastor, I haven't heard anybody that is remotely against your church, your congregation, in this effort. It's just, when you're dealing with the government and government property, it's just not so easy as if this was a private donation. You know, if I had a piece of property and you wanted it, and I wanted to give it to you, boom, bam, get a lawyer, it's done. But this process, and we've got a well-abled attorney to get us through this, my suggestion would be patient and let us do our due diligence and come back to you. Okay? But I don't feel what you're discussing at all. Okay?
But we're learning during this process as well.
Yes, sir.
What we're doing now, we should have done before we even brought it up.
We should have, before anything ever came up. Yes, sir.
Right, and I think what he's saying is there's a process that's about 2 months long, if I'm hearing him right.
I don't think, no, he's
Well,
talking about coming back at the
gotta be-
regular council meeting.
right, that's gotta be the draft ordinance, and then you approve it at the regular council meeting, then it's gotta go on the paper, and then you gotta go through that process, and then come back, and then approve bids, so it's about 2 months, is basically what he's saying.
An ordinance.
Well, whatever it is, we don't have control over the how that's done according to state law. And I'm sure you're not gonna ask us to circumvent state law.
I think one of the main
You know what I'm
things is we
saying?
have,
So,
I think one of the main things though,
yes, sir.
is we have a good legal proposal here now. So we just wanna go through the process and do our due diligence.
I got you, Mr. Miller.
I think, I personally have concerns about the daycare, with the not being licensed, not only being, I think it's only allowed to have 5 kids, so I do have some questions. Are you guys gonna obtain that licensing?
We do plan on it, correct.
And it is a rigorous process, so I just wanna see what your plans were with
Yeah,
that.
initially, that wouldn't be in the, and I'll put that in the proposal as well, that wouldn't be initially. Initially, we're gonna start off with, and I don't wanna take up a whole lot of your time, but the clothes closet, the food closet, pantry, the veteran service, those are gonna be the first ones that we kick off. The daycare will come later, after we go through all the license, hire the proper staff and all of that, so that will, well, I don't wanna give a time, but it won't be. on
Be
the
down the
website.
road, okay. That's great. Sounds
Mr.
good.
Miller?
Thank you.
You know, I hope as members of this council that we never get ourselves in this predicament again. I really do. Because this has caused a lot of heartbreak, a lot of friendship, a lot of discord, when really it wasn't done right. We as council, we jumped the gun before we studied the situation.
I know, I certainly did, and I apologize. You know, I was so enthusiastic about getting this to you, and I know I had other colleagues as well. And it's a part-time gig for us. You know, we do our very best. We all have full-time jobs, and, you know, so I apologize to the congregation. I give you my word that this council is not, or this town is not jerking y'all around, hoping that you're gonna go away or anything. What I see is the council trying to find out at what level of support we can give you legally. That's what I see and what I hear. Is that pretty much what y'all, council? Okay. So I hope that's agreeable to you, sir.
Yeah, that's fine, and like I said, we weren't taking it personal, you know, we just wanted to make sure that, your time is valuable as well as ours.
Yes, sir.
Didn't want to just keep going through this process and
Yes,
not
sir.
moving anywhere, so.
Well, going forward, I will do better at communicating with you and keep you in the loop. And I have a good relationship with the town attorney, and we'll have a triangle of knowledge here, okay?
Sure.
Information. I promise to do better.
Okay, thank you.
And I appreciate y'all coming tonight. And please don't discount that the town of Blackstone doesn't appreciate your ministry and your congregation, because we do, very much
Well,
so.
either way, we're still gonna support the
I know
community.
you are. I know you are.
Regardless of what your vote is, we're still gonna support the community, best we can.
Well, we appreciate it. We're hoping that we can help that, okay? All right,
I do have one more thing on that issue, if you don't mind.
okay?
Since the attorney's here and he's trying to write the draft ordinance, have we settled on a lease term for whoever the recipient is? I think that would have to be in the draft ordinance. I would think that the council wouldn't want to have to do this in another year or two again.
Might as well figure 5 or more.
I would think
More
six,
than
at
that.
least
I mean,
6.
Cost-wise, it's not gonna be a 1, 2 year, 3 year tag.
Right, yeah.
I mean, and I
Members
did
of
tell you,
council, if I could interject here, that's part of the subject of what I want to talk to you all about in closed session.
Okay,
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
all right. Thank you, Pastor. The next item on the agenda, Mr. Manager, is Taylor Bottom RFPs.
And they're included in your paper packet.
There was some,
What?
They're included in the paper.
there was some confusion at the last council meeting, Julian, in regard to the, request for qualifications that we issued for housing rehab specialist and for a grant administration. We have received, giving you probably a little history, maybe also helping the council some, with a planning grant that we've received from the Department of Housing and Community Development, the amount of $60,000 for the Taylor Bottom project area for a potential DHCD construction grant. In the planning grant process, we need a housing rehab specialist to look at the houses, look at the condition, come up with a budget for improvements and that sort of thing, as well as an administrative specialist. And one of our biggest duties will be putting together the income data for the folks that live down there, working with Chastity, and writing the actual and submitting the actual construction grant to the Department of Housing and Community Development. We did issue an RFQ, and the response were in your packet at the last council meeting. But I was confused because we had a statement in the back of it about being available for council to review or the public to review. These are public documents and everybody can review them, and they're responsive to an RFQ. We've received one response for housing rehab specialist, and that's Earl Howerton, with Howerton's Inspection Services. And we received one response to our RFQ for administrative services, and that's Southside Outreach Group. Same folks we worked with on East End, same folks we worked in on West End and Church Street. So we are making a recommendation that we employ or enter into contract with Earl Howerton and Howerton's Inspection Services for home inspection services for the Taylor Bottom neighborhood, which would be paid for out of the planning grant. I'm not asking council for any money to hire these folks. And then Southside Outreach would provide the administrative support, also paid for out of that $60,000 Taylor Bottom grant that we've been awarded.
I had a question, if you don't mind.
Mr. Page?
Is this the one from the last meeting that the bids came in, said for council eyes only? Do you have numbers on the bid? Because
I
my eyes haven't touched those.
Maybe Chastity can tell you the
They did
total
not
figures.
put figures on there, they just gave their qualifications.
We didn't ask for a dollar figure in there, but when the budget is prepared and put together and submitted, then they'll have to live within that. We can get you a budget that we submitted for the $60,000, and that'll give you an estimated figure of what their fees would be.
So we don't have to seek bids and get a low bidder on this one?
No,
Not
it's
for request for qualifications.
Seek qualifications.
like RFPs, RFQs,
Yeah.
attorneys, we didn't base that necessarily on hourly rate. We
Gotcha.
determined qualification.
So this is basically what we did in the East End.
This is verbatim what we did on the East End.
Exactly.
Same thing.
Right, same thing, okay.
But we gotta do it by process but we can get you a copy of that budget for the $60,000 planning grant, and that should give you a pretty good idea on what we can expect to pay Earl Howerton and Southside Outreach for these services.
So these same positions were utilized during East?
Yes, I can.
They've been with us, they were with us in Amelia. Larry used them previous to my coming back, so probably it's a 20, 25-year relationship between Blackstone, Amelia County, and Earl and Early.
Nothing against them, I'm surprised there's nobody else that submits for projects like this.
The Planning District Commission used to do some of these kinds of things, not so much the housing, but the grant administration, but they didn't. They're shorthanded now. They've lost executive director and they've lost Todd Fortune, so they're down to a one-person shop, basically now. Lauren is really the last person standing up there. Okay.
You don't need action from council?
I think we need to engage, a motion to engage both of those groups, Southside Outreach for administration and Howard Inspection Services for the home inspection.
So moved, just exactly as he just said.
I like it. I like it a lot, Mr. Page.
I'll second, yeah.
And I got
Good,
2 or 3
good
seconds to boot, so, let's see, I'm gonna give that to Mr. Nash. Mr. Page has moved to, engage the services of these two firms, and Mr. Nash is seconded. Is there any discussion? Abundance of caution, I'll ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Nguyen.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 6-0. Next item on the agenda is the capital improvement plan. Mr. Manager?
Capital improvement plan is before you. I think it was handed out previous. I don't know if Jennifer put another copy out there in front of you guys. But the capital improvement plan is a 5-year estimation of capital projects that will be taken on by the town. And I think we exceed $100 million primarily in water and sewer improvements and that sort of thing. So everybody knows, the purpose of a capital improvement plan is not to definitively commit to the spending. It's to put together a plan, and for my purposes, it's helpful when I go to VDOT or if Chastity goes to DHCD and they want to know, is that project in your capital improvement plan? And when they grade our grant applications, they actually get scores for that. 5 points, 10 points, whatever the matrix is that they have. I can't say this is complete. Chris has approached me earlier today, and we talked a week or two ago about College Road and maybe becoming a capital improvement project. And I think that logically would be added to the capital improvement plan. You know, there's things, I think we have the water lines for Crew and the improvements if Crew happens, but indeed, this is not a commitment to do the work. We will a la carte pick these items out of this budget as monies come available. We've just got a tremendous amount of water and sewer replacement, some in town. We've been doing pretty good in town. We've been taking on projects every few years, and I think Larry, prior to me, took on projects, and, but man, the utilities at Pickett really need some work. And I think when the town received them, especially the water, and we have a tremendous amount of I&I out there at Pickett, so I don't think it's any shocker, but I would say we need to get that process started. Certainly, the number one location at Fort Pickett for inflow and infiltration, which is groundwater or surface water getting into your sanitary sewer system, which there is a lot at Fort Pickett, old lines. The first area would be, believe it or not, out the airport, and B&B Consultants, on behalf of the Post, did a study along with, I think, Gilmore Environmental helped them, and we have a copy of it, that the primary location for I&I at Fort Pickett is at the airfield. So that may be a project that we need to move forward faster. But what I anticipate taking on in this next borrowing, and what I've worked with Bob Lauterberg with VML VACO Finances, we started the process of replacing the raw water line, the associated pumps at the reservoir, okay? If you remember, there's also in his engagement letter, there's also a replacement of the Forest Drive force main. There's been some backups in the force main, or backups at the pump station when it overflows. And Andre is concerned because that force main is broken. It is not terribly old. It's less than 25 years old. But the product that was used at the time, 25 years ago, a ductile iron pipe, I don't think was the right application, because I do think that caustic suspended solids that are in wastewater have worn that pipe down. So I think we're gonna, and that was Andre's #1 priority water wastewater project, based on his decision making, would be to replace the Forest Drive force main, which is basically the force line that comes out of the pump station at the end of Forest Drive. It comes through Pickett Court. That's been replaced, but we would need to start at West Entrance Road and basically go to the discharge point, very close to, they're not here anymore, but very close to where Signs, Designs, and More is. Okay.
Yeah, you very fluently flow through those items that are priorities to you. And they are priorities. They sound very important, as they are. But there's a hell of a lot of pages of capital requests in there for different groups.
Yes, sir.
Would it be wise as a council to maybe come together
Sure.
and, one, prioritize the groups, and then prioritize what's within them and what they want
I'd love it.
before we,
At work session.
That'd be great.
that way we're all on the same page going in, and it's not from, not that it's from your hip, but you know it like the back of your hand, what.
I'm happy to get you guys involved, and the more the better, so that we know what we're getting into. If you look at the audit, and I was just reviewing it, there's $10 million of bonded debt with the town as of July 1st, 2023, okay? $10 million. In one project, we're talking $12-14 million just on the raw water line. If we end up doing the crew project, that could be as much as $26 million of debt the town takes out, okay? And I also caution you, there's also other issues, also in your audit. They do the calculation that tells you how much general obligation debt you're entitled to take out. It's about $18 million. Well, we've already taken, of that 10 million, about 9 million of it is general obligation debt. Some of that, I said was okay years ago because we had to refinance in 2020 because COVID really hit our cash flows, and the bank that financed it wanted the general obligation, and we, whatever it takes at this point, we're willing to do. But half of your general obligation typically builds a courthouse or a swimming pool or a community center, that sort of thing. We've got to make sure that our lenders, where we go, is willing to lend us $26 million potentially, but certainly at least 12 or 14 million for the raw water line and the pump intakes without a general obligation pledge. And general obligation basically, and I'm sure an attorney or bond counsel can be more eloquent, but basically says you're gonna raise taxes or provide whatever resource that you have to pay these bonds back. Whereas a revenue bond really just says the rates of the water and the sewer system, or the revenues of the water and the sewer system, will go back to paying this. So we got a lot of work to do, big time, and we've also got to make sure that we don't exceed our general obligation debt load, which is, you can see the calculation in the back of your audit. It's in there now. But I would love to have a work session.
All right, so why don't we, we have designated the first Wednesday for continued meetings, and why don't we continue the regularly scheduled meeting to June 5th at 7 PM in these chambers? And, or, better yet, at the fire station, at the police department in the conference room, we can sit around a table. I think it'd be better, it's easier for us to.
I think the recording equipment's a little tougher over there, though.
Well, public will be invited if they'd like to come, but I just think that would be a much better work environment, okay? Any objections, council?
I think it's great.
June 5th
June 5th.
at the fire station.
No, I misspoke. Police Department Conference Room. All right, so I'll do that. Remind me, Madam Clerk, if you will, at the meeting.
What time?
Madam Treasurer, do you have something?
Utility billing.
Okay.
Next
Are
item.
we ready for that?
At your,
She's moving us right along. I kinda like it.
So there's no motion for the capital improvement plan?
Yes, do we need to accept that, or you wanna wait until that
no, we
meeting?
can wait, no.
Right, we'll-
Happy to wait, no
What's
problem.
the process after you accept it to add or take away from it? Does it have to go through, is it just a majority vote, or does it have to go through the planning
This is
commission?
really a document that is prepared by, obviously, staff puts it in there, and we present it to the planning commission, and they've made a recommendation for you guys to approve it, and it is a function of the planning commission to provide planning for capital expenditures. And that's designed by or designated by the state code in that process, and I think places like Chesterfield, planning commissions probably have subcommittees and all kinds of stuff that work on these kinds of things, road improvements and interchanges and all that sort of thing. Probably less so with our planning commission. They like knowing what's going on, but I think, yes, it would, a revision of that, like a revision of any other document they've made a recommendation on. I don't think you have to have a series of public hearings. I don't think that's necessary, but I do think appropriately so that the planning commission.
We, just so you know, Mr. Van Orbeck, we did not have a copy of that plan up here tonight, and it's okay. So I'd like you to, so I will, council, you did receive it as an email. If you will, when we come back here on the 20th, is that correct? When you come back on the 20th, will you have a copy at the table?
Which, not wanted on the June 5th, that's when you want.
No,
to take a copy.
but I'd like them to be able to take a copy home if they don't wanna print one off at home, and this gives everybody a month.
Ain't it a ton of pages?
Yes,
It's like 500 pages
that's why I didn't print.
per
it.
person.
Well, if anybody would like a printed copy, contact the clerk, how's that?
I'll bring my laptop.
Okay, all right. Moving right along, the billing process. Madam Treasurer, are you gonna report?
Yes.
She is.
We had a health and ordinance meeting, that Jake led about the utility process. I don't know if I have anything. Oh, here it is, okay. And with the new law being passed July 1st, there'll be some changes, so,
I take it the governor didn't veto it.
So as of July 1st, customers will have 45 days from the due date to pay their utility bill before disconnection. Whereas now it's 15 days from the due date. So usually bills are due, say, May 31st or whatever the last business day is in May, and then June 15th it has to be paid or they'll be disconnected. So moving forward, the only change that will be made if approved is the due date on the actual bill will print out as of July 1st. The bills will go out, it will say due July 15th, but customers still will not get a late fee until the 1st of the following month.
That'll be spelled out on the bill.
Yes, it will be spelled out, we'll have a very clear notice on the back of the bills.
Pull it up to you so the attorney can hear you.
It'll be a very clear notice on the back of the bills for the customer saying that the only thing that's changing is the due date that's printed on the bill, and that just like gives us a grace period for the 45 days for disconnection.
It's kinda eases the pain of this
Right,
extra. Okay.
correct.
I personally would like to see
Okay.
those that pay by the 15th actually get a 1% discount or something like that. When we talk about a cash crunch,
Ooh.
I got a
get
question.
them back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we get a bill today.
Mm-hmm.
So normally we pay it by the 31st week.
Right.
So what's changing with that?
So say the law were to pass today. The bills went out a few days ago, the last business day in April. Usually the bills will be due the last business day in May. That's what it would say on the actual utility bill. The only thing that's gonna change is printed on the utility bill, it will say due May 15th, but you still are not getting penalized the next day. You will not get a penalty until the first of the month. That does not change. So technically, you still have until the last business day of the month to pay before you get a late fee. The only reason we are changing the due date is to give us where we don't have to extend the disconnection so long.